So there's a difference between being tired and being weary. And I think in life it's important to understand which one you are when you are. In 2013, I was at the end of my music touring career. I actually started playing shows when I was like 12 years old in my dad's band, with my sister actually, a family band. And we were called Faux Possum, F-A-U-X, Possum, in case you're wondering where I get my humor from. And I was playing drums in that. And I ended up, we playing a lot of small venues and folk nights and acoustic things. And I would get the chance to play drums and percussion behind other people. And then I started playing in like a church band that was a kind of a big deal and a lot of people. And that's where I got my real first kind of professional training in music, actually. I'd say I owe almost my whole drumming career to the music minister who led at Highland Baptist Church, Gary Rhodes. And anyway, that sort of launched things for me. I learned guitar at 16. I started playing shows in my own bands. And then by the time I turned 19, 20, I left Texas and started traveling to play music. And I was, playing all over the place. And the road is, I think it's amazing. The touring road life, I love it. I always loved it. I loved it from the first time that I got the chance to ride in the back of a van to a gig, unload, set up my drums, and play to a very small crowd of people who were really excited about it, and then put our crap back in the van and drive home. It's not for everybody, but I'll tell you, man, it was a life that I seemingly was just made for. I loved the fun parts, which, setting up, and really it's the show that's the fun part. Playing music, watching it impact the crowd, watching it roll across the room, and the people you get to meet, and the musicians you get to play with, and the recording sessions, and the studios, and the venues, and I even loved the crap parts of it, like sleeping, setting up. You get really, really good at sleeping, setting up in like Suburbans and vans jammed in between music equipment, and then eventually tour buses and coffins, really, which is what they are, coffins on the road, and loading gear in and setting it up over and over again, and the weird food and crappy hotels, sharing a bed with one or two other people, and sleeping bags and fried food and junk food in green rooms and lots of chicken strips. And there's actually a really funny, David Lindley, who's a pedal or lap slide player for Jackson Brown's band, and also has his own solo albums. He has a song, you should look it up, called Cat Food Sandwiches, and it's about backstage food, and it's glorious. But it's addictive, and I loved it. And I booked tours, and I played with bands, and then I ended up moving back to Texas in 2009 for family reasons and with my son's medical condition. But I was still on the road, and I was doing a lot more solo stuff, a lot less band stuff, but I was getting in a car and driving places instead of getting on buses and vans and trailers, and booking shows way in advance and doing a whole year while also working other jobs to make more money. And I was tired a lot. And that life, sleep is not a normal part of your routine. So you get very used to being tired. But one day I woke up and I wasn't just tired. It was something different. But first, let's talk about Pendleton Rye. Now, this is Pendleton. We've seen this brand. It comes out of Hood River, and they are sourcing Canadian whiskey. So it's a Canadian whiskey, a Canadian rye, and this is from Alberta, and so it's 100% rye. And what I've loved about Hood River is that they just tell you right on the back, this is made in Canada at Alberta, and we bring it to Hood River and we bottle it. And it's bottled in honor of the 1910, it says it on the bottle, the 1910 Roundup, which is like the oldest running and most famous rodeo in Northeast Oregon. And I love Alberta. I think they make one of the great Canadian ryes. And so what I think is cool about this is you get the chance to try a 12-year-old Alberta rye. And you can actually get this one. Now, like a lot of Canadian whiskey, it doesn't have that same sort of American kind of super punch you in the face botanical herbal notes. It's more soft and vanilla cream herb. And so think of a really bready herbalness instead of a really plant botanical herbiness. Mixed with vanilla, almost like a French toast. It just drinks soft. It's just simple and soft. It's not as harsh as a budget Canadian. I'm honestly surprised at the 12-year age statement. It's a little dry on the finish, but not enough that it feels heavy on the barrels, but it is being aged in Canada, not in Texas. So yeah, there's this sort of citrusy note. There's a lot of vanilla. There's a lot of pastry and bread. And then there's sort of a slow oak tannin kind of woody note that floats down in there. That's got to be the 12-year age statement. It's okay. It's not going to change your life, but it's very drinkable. A little more character than your classic big budget Canadian whiskeys, and actually a little better than than the Alberta Premium, which is always a suggestion of mine to people who want to try Alberta. Is I really like the Alberta Premium as just like a good entry level, but it's good. All right, so there's hard parts to touring too. The lack of a home base, the lack of consistent surroundings, the constant change in people. If you're a deep introvert like I am, that never truly being alone, or it being really hard to get alone. The food is sometimes a drawback, the weird sleeping situations, and then you got people problems, the personality conflicts with, band leaders or even sound guys, and, other bandmates, and touring complications and crappy venue owners and people who don't promote. One time we went to a show that we were supposed to play in Dallas, and it turns out the person who had booked the show had not promoted it at all. And we show up in the venue and no one shows up. We travel 12 hours, I think, to get to that show. And we ended up playing an 1.5-hour concert for the sound guy and his girlfriend. But we used it as a great practice run. So I'm used to things being hard, and I was used to things being kind of heavy and like, oh gosh, I'm so tired, I'd love to sleep for a couple of weeks. But I woke up in Portland. I was on tour doing a bunch of small like house concerts and small venue shows. And I woke up in a hotel in Portland, and I thought, I am not okay. I'm weary. And it's different. This is a different weariness. And it's not the same as tired. It's like a tiredness that threads through your bones instead of just feels in your muscles and skin. And I had been around the planet long enough at that point to pay attention to that. So I woke up and I got on my computer and I started canceling all the shows for the rest of the year, anything that wouldn't put anybody out. And I got home and I was asked, what are you going to do now? And I thought, I don't know, but it needs to change. Something needs to change. So what I'd say for you is life can get tough and things can be, especially if you're on the front edge of doing things and you're working your butt off, and the struggle to make ends meet and to stay ahead of the curve, if not to grow, it can be a drag and it can really just sap you. But pay attention to the moments in your life when weariness creeps in, because that's different. That's different. And you need to listen to that. If I hadn't listened to that weariness, I wouldn't be at Wizard Academy, because I got off the road in January, and in June, I got a call from Rex Williams. And I'll tell you the rest later. Cheers to you. Thanks for watching. I'm really glad you're here.